We still do 7 NUFC Matters show a week for free. But if you want to help support NUFC Matters, then there are a few ways of doing it. Hit the like button on each live broadcast and video. This helps the channel grow. Hit the subscribe button and select the all notifications bell so you don't miss a single show. If you want to help us financially, then you can join the channel using this button with the membership starting at $1.99 a month. Or you can drop us a donation in the chat using a super sticker. We're also looking for sponsors. If you'd like your brand advertised on the flyers for the show and featured during the ad break, then email John at nufcmatters.com to arrange today.
Hush now, city kids, gather round for other mints. Hush now, city kids. When it came to me after so long, I didn't have no choices, and the streets were where I was from. When I think about the pain, I didn't have no choices, I took what I had sworn. Hush now, city kids, gather round for urban myths. Hush now, city kids. But you know, they wouldn't let you have it any other way.
Good evening, welcome to nufc Matters with me, Steve Wright. That is the Fans Forum. It's the end of season review, and the end of the season, some of us enjoy the time off and get away from the football. Other people clearly have a different reaction. And thanks to Andrew for sending a photo in of Barry Hogan this week. Barry, did you see that? Barry?
Where on earth is that?
Well, it's not you, obviously, Barry, but Andrew did send a video in to me.
Does that mean looking like
he says Barry Hogan's not taking the end of the season well. Absolutely brilliant.
Just giving us a couple of lads.
You want to say the game, Barry? Here you go.
Oh, Christ.
Yeah,
doing his best not to spill a drop and all.
Yes, I doing well. Like, I don't know who it is. Like,
I'm like that without a drink.
He had a good day. Yeah, but Barry doesn't actually drink. I don't know where this has all started in the chat, but I knew everyone would find that quite funny. So thanks, Andrew, for sending that in. Okay, as I mentioned at the top of the program, it is the end of the season review. I asked the lads to pick their player of the season, their young player of the season, the goal of the season, the match of the season, the best signing of the season, and marks out of 10 for the season. So I'm going to go around the lads today, ask them their thoughts on those questions. Feel free to chuck your answers into the chat as well. And if we get time, we'll go through them as well. So, George, we will start with you, sir. Go through your list, mate. What have you got for us tonight?
Well, the player of the season wasn't hard for me. It's got to be Bruno. Bruno Guimaraes has been outstanding in every sense of the word, both for Newcastle and on national terms. Most yards run of any player in the Premiership, most foul player in the Premiership. And towards the end of this season, he started to get goals as well. Now, I hope that continues next year because that's somebody from midfield scoring double-figure goals is always a good sign and makes boosts the team quite a lot, I think. So Bruno gets it for me. Close now to becoming one of the best players I've ever seen, in my opinion. And that might be controversial, but I've yet to see anybody whose ability on the ball and prepared to receive the ball anyway. Even if he's surrounded by opponents, he'll take the ball to help his mates out. And that's special stuff. And so for me, Bruno wins that one hands down. Goal next or young player? What do you want?
Good. Just going on the list. Young player of the season is next.
Young players, really hard one because I've chosen Isaac, but it could easily have been Anthony Gordon as well. And Isaac gets it just because how can you not pick the only other player that got near the golden boot in the Premiership was Alexander Isak, and his skill levels are out of this world when he's on form. I mean, controversially, when we come to goal, I was thinking that they saying that Murphy's goal at Everton was the best goal, but it wasn't. It was the assist that made it the goal, because if you remember, Isak went down the left side of Everton defence from our half into their half into the penalty area, and then had the good sense to stop for 2 seconds and lay the ball onto Murphy to tap in, where a lot of players would have just belted it against the goalkeeper or against the post. But Isak, in terms of young player, he just
That was last season, that, George.
Was it?
Aye.
Well, whenever it's just, I was just using it as an example of his skill levels. Yes, you're right, Darren. It was, but he just such a live wire, and the skills are natural. He doesn't have to think about it. It all comes naturally. So it's hard on Anthony Gordon, because I would like to have said Anthony, but Isak's skill level just that step higher up for me. So he gets the young player for me. And now a goal. Well, goodness gracious, this is one of the most difficult ones, and I think I'm going to be slightly controversial. Goal of the season for me was Livramento's against Manchester United in the Carabao Cup. Came out of nowhere, out of his own penalty area, and ran the length of the field and walloped it into the opposition goal. They don't come much better than that. But there's so many to choose from in terms of the play. Some of the goals, the last Harvey Barnes goal against Spurs, for example, if you're talking about a goal a football goal, started with a beautiful long ball out of defence from none other than Dan Burn, of course, and then some beautiful interchange play on the left side with Gordon and others, and then Barnes just took it on his own and cut across the penalty area, and did set my heart alight that a left winger could strike a right foot shot so hard and so true and score a beautiful goal. But when I look back at them all, I kept going back to the individual one, and the individual one for me was Livramento. What's next? Match. Well, again, we've had some great games. The 5-1 demolition at Villa at the beginning of the season took a lot to beat it. It was outstanding. But in terms of overall atmosphere and how we pulled ourselves together, the game against Spurs not so long ago, where we actually demolished Spurs with only 28% of the possession. We actually demolished them. In football terms, that's not supposed to happen. But we were so clinical. It was so good to behold that we were able to do that against, so we're told, some of the best defenders in the world, and we just made them look silly. All of them on song on that day. So yeah, I'm gonna go for the Spurs game. But as I said, the Villa 5-1 was a hard one to beat, but I've gone for the Spurs game as me game. Signing, well, gosh, it's got, we've been so lucky. I couldn't give Gordon the young player, but I'm going to give Gordon the signing, because he came with.
Didn't we sign him last season?
Yes.
Yeah, so you can't have him. He was signed last season, George.
I'm desperate to give Gordon a prize, you see.
You cannot. I've got to be harsh on you, George, but that was the season before, so you can't be included.
Then then in that case, I go back to Livramento. I wondered why we. Sorry, he was last year as well, though, isn't he?
No, Tino was this.
No, this year,
Yeah.
yeah. I was curious as to why we hung around, desperate to sign this young lad from Southampton who'd had this nasty knee injury. And it gave me all sorts of collywobbles, thinking, well, are we going to buy somebody who's going to last 5 minutes and then gone? And when I saw what they paid for him, I thought, well, got to be something special. Well, he was something special. He's really proved to be the future. Tino was, for me, in every sense, he's answered all the queries about what happens if we lose Trippier, and it wouldn't matter now for me. We've got a brilliant right back and in Tino, and I'm happy with him as the signing of the year for me.
Okay, and your last one, marks out of 10 for the season. Marks
out of 10. Yeah, I can give it an 8. That's as much as I can give it, I'm afraid. We just fell short at the last hurdle, but having had the season we've had and the injuries and all the rest of it, we're lucky to get an 8 because it's halfway through the year. It could have been down as low as 6 or even 5. We were so desperate. But the way they pulled themselves together and give them a lot more excitement and had a go at what they were doing, it was just that last breath that we couldn't get it over the line. And so 8 out of 10 is my season.
I've stuck Barry at the end there just so he can sober up after his fall. He's trying to manipulate the list. So there we go. Who won Barry's door? That's going to be at the end of season 2, Dean. I think Barry's going to bring a door with him to give away as part of the raffle.
I'm not buying any drinks.
We're definitely not raffling off Barry's back door.
Hey! He doesn't say much. He doesn't say much, but when he does, okay, Kev, give us your list, mate. Give us your player of the season first.
Yeah, player of the season for me. Agree with George, Bruno. Just based on a pure consistency level, you can't get much better than as a central midfielder in the Premier League. For me, if he's I could play more games and recruit more goals, I think he would have just picked it. For me, it was a toss-up. One of the two. We're just blessed to have both of them, to be perfectly honest. But I went with Bruno just on his consistent level and his discipline to go, 13 odd games or whatever it was without a booking towards the end of the year. So that's for a central midfielder, especially with the way he plays and the passion that he plays with and the emotion that he plays with, is fantastic to see from central midfielder, which you don't normally expect. So kudos to him. So I decided to go with the Brazilian boy Bruno. Plus, he likes to have a good dance in the party from the videos that we've seen as well. So that always helps.
Well,
young player of the season. It's a bit of, again, a toss-up. You could throw Lewis Miley in there just for the nature of what he's had to endure in terms of the amount of games that he's played. So is it true young player of the year? I'll go with him. But again, over the course of the year, I'm going to go with Anthony Gordon. I think he's been a driving force down the left side. I think he's been a problem for a lot of teams. Not dark arts exactly, but he's a player that every other team loves to hate, type of thing. Plus, he's got himself an international call-up throughout the year, which is, again, fantastic for us, fantastic for him. So hopefully he'll recover from this injury and get picked for the Euros. So, again, that's from a personal level for him to get that recognition and actual good, consistent performances across the year. Plus, he's added goals to his game. Plus, he's added assists to his game, which obviously helps our front line and our Alexander Isak. So for me, that was him for the young player. Goal of the season, it's a bit of a sentimental one. It's the fourth against PSG from Fabian Shaw. Sorry, Alan, I'm probably stole your thunder there with that. No, just for the 20 years being away from the Champions League, and that was the first game back with it at St James's Park. Unfortunately, I couldn't be there, but at the same time, just the whole emotive nature of that game across the board, you know, ripping PSG apart, and then for Fabian Shaw to win the ball high up the field, have a combination play with I can't remember who it was on the top of on the edge of the 18-yard box, and then just a slip, then put it in the past Donnarumma to put it in the top bin, just to seal the victory. To be honest, you can't really get much better than that on a Champions League night, to be perfectly fair, on the biggest stage. So that's my goal of the season. Match of the season. It could have been Arsenal at home just to piss some Arsenal fans off, but I didn't. It was actually in the midst of a really, really, really poor time for us when we needed a victory, and it was Aston Villa away when we beat them 3-1.
Yeah.
So I think that really galvanised, or just to get a win. Plus, it's Aston Villa away, and obviously they were flying at the time, and obviously made Champions League football, which we obviously all wanted, or European football as a whole. But I think that game showed the desire and want from the group as a whole to push forward, to actually try and make a run at it at the back end of the year. Yes, obviously performances peaked and troughed, of course they did, but that's football, is part of it. But at the same, I think that performance, we were 3 up and they scored in the 70-odd minute. But yeah, that was like, again, complete domination, like a Tottenham game, like others that we played in. But I think that was really the one that we showed to the Premier League that, oh, actually, we're in a bit of a problem here, but we can go to Villa and win, because nobody expected it. So, yeah, that's my match of the season. Best signing, again, agree with George, Tino Livramento. I think he's probably going to be the best up-and-coming right back this country's seen. And I just think his overall play, his energy, his possible delivery, which obviously needs to work on. He's still only young. But at the same, it could have been Lewis Hall, because I think he's had a fabulous back end of the season. It's like the dovetail. One's had a great start, one had a bit of a bad end, one had a good end. So, but for me, Tino Livramento has been the best signing of the season. Excuse me. And marks out of 10. I'm not going to go as high as George. I'm going to give it the old Olympic score, and I'm going to go with 7.3. That's how I mark things. I don't mark things round numbers. I give it a point on the end. But I just think it was obviously what happened on the FA Cup final. So we were expecting somebody else to do something for us, which we should never ever do. It was all in our hands, and we let it slip through our fingers quite dramatically, and that's the only reason. If we got into Europe, then we're looking pushing 8s and high, maybe 8 a little higher. But for me, it was a bit of a letdown, bit of a burst of the balloon, essentially, in terms of the expectation of where we could possibly be. We didn't get there, so I think that's quite a fair score in terms of the actual marks out of 10.
Who was your best signing for this season, Kev?
Tino Livramento, mate.
Tino Livramento. Okay, that's 2 for him. Okay, Pablo, welcome back, mate. You've had a couple of weeks off for work. Give us your player of the season, mate.
Player of the season, it's just going to follow suit. It's going to be Bruno. Purely consistency, never lets you down. Scored some crackers. I don't actually think there's anyone else, because of the consistency of the team and the injuries we've had. There's no one really that would be in the same bracket to challenge him. Isak has obviously had a cracker, but I think over the course of the season, Bruno's been the man to rely on, or our go-to man when the times are hard. So I'm just going to stick with the lads and say Bruno. I think that's an easy one. In fact, if anybody else says otherwise on this panel, I'd be shocked.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh no. Darren's laugh means that's going.
Yeah. Young player of the season, then.
See, we're young player of the season, an interesting one, because I always class in my mind a young player as being 21 and under. So I didn't look at the players like your Gordons, your Isaks, even though, let's face it, on this panel, they're all young players to us, aren't they?
I agree, yeah.
I've gone from like 21 and under, and that to me, just that points straight to Tino. You know, I was banging Tino's drum a long time ago, and I'm going to stick with that because I think the lad were never called upon, bar the odd 2 shaky games, but they were usually shaky team performances. I think Tino has been the man, young player of the year.
Okay, so that's your young player. Goal of the season.
Ooh, this is a tough one. Tough one, lads. There's a lot of people saying the sharp PSG, but a couple that stick out to me is Joe Linton versus Milan. That was an absolute thunderbolt, wasn't it?
Yeah.
But for me, and it kind of twins into what I'm going to say about the game of the season. Do you remember when Harvey Barnes come on against Luton?
Yeah.
And slightly after been out from injury for that long, that always sticks in my mind as well. But for pure goal of the season, I'm going to go Joe Linton against Milan.
Okay, that's a good shout. A few people in the chat have suggested that as well. What's your match of the season? I think you've given it away.
Exactly. Well, for a manner of reasons, 4-4 against Luton. I mean, it had the excitement of a football match. It was just it was up in arms. There was highs, there was lows, there was come-ons, there was whatever. But I think in the middle of that, we were in a bit of a slump. I think we'd gone, if you look at, say, the 6 or 8 games prior to it, I think we were in a slump. I don't know we got a result prior to that, but I think when we came back to 4-4, albeit only Luton, as we'd say, I think it just spurred us on for the next period because we were kind of down in the dumps. I remember thinking, oh, here we go again. You know, Newcastle are going to let us down. That kind of mentality started to creep into me. And I think that gave us a bit of an impetus to then kick on for the final slog.
Okay, and your best signing of the season?
Tough one, this, isn't it? Because I think had we had Tonali, I'd be hoping we'd be sat here going Sandro Tonali, because I think that's what we were all anticipating.
Yeah.
So I think, I've only got as signings for us this year as Tonali, Harvey Barnes, Tino, and Minte. I don't know if he was this year or just cusp of last, but
yeah.
I think giving Tino a young player. Well, no, I'm going to go Tino. I'm a big fan of his, so I'm going to go signing the season Tino for what he offers us, what he's given us this season, but also what he offers us going forward. I think there's a lot of prospect, a lot of promise there. So I'm going to go with Tino.
Yeah, I can see why you would say that as well. And I would fully understand why people would pick Tino for that. Okay, your marks out of the 10 for the season?
This is tough. I don't want to be too negative. I was talking about before, I'm going to say a 6, but if I say a 7, I've negotiated with myself there because with the circumstances, it's been tough on it. You know, we all admit it's been tough, but also there have been times where we've let ourselves down. So I can't go any more than a 7, but I'm going to go on the positive side and say a 7, and hopefully next year it'll be much higher. Yeah.
Okay, that's good. All right, here we go. He's coined a name today. He's called himself Darren Negativity. Now, you can't be negative, Darren, because you're simply giving your answers to the questions today. You're not predicting scorelines. So hopefully I'll prove you wrong with this. But who's your player of the season, first of all? And you can't say nobody or nothing. Yes, I knew you were going to say that. I knew you were going to say that.
Nobody. It's going to be Anthony Gordon.
Right, okay.
Anthony, Isaac played more games, I would give it to him, but Gordon, he's been fantastic this year. His work rate, his commitment, he only had a week off when he come back from the Euros. He was straight in it. Hardly had any time off, and everything he's done on the pitch has been perfection. So there was only one answer for me, Anthony Gordon.
Not Paul Dummett.
No, I think he's on an aeroplane going to lose or something now.
To lose? Dear me, he never played to lose, mate. Young player of the season.
Again, it was harder between Gordon and Tino, but I'm going to give it a Gordon because again he's just come to England 21. He's played fantastic all year for young player of the road. Yeah, Anthony Gordon.
Anthony Gordon, okay.
Are you in a relationship with Anthony Gordon?
I should be, really.
Goal of the season. I'm just trying to think of which Anthony Gordon goal you're going to pick.
It's going to be Harvey Barnes against Aston Villa. West Ham.
Yeah.
It was an unbelievable game. It had a bit of everything. The game itself, or Harvey Barnes' goal, just out of nowhere goes the win. So to make it 4-3, so that's the right goal. That's the best goal I've seen this season at St James's. So I'll go for that one.
Okay. And match of the season.
It's only one really. It's got to be PSG for me. It's unbelievable flag. The flag display, everything about it, was unbelievable. I seen Mbappe play and he was rubbish. But that's for the Champions League, first time back in Champions League. What a night! What a take a lot away from that night. The passion, everything, you know.
And your best signing of the season.
I've got to follow suit with this one, boys. Tino.
Mm-hmm.
It's a strong best sign. I was like George said, he wasn't wondering why he's gone for this player while they're haggling for, but he's proven why. He's had great signing all year. Future right back guarantee for England. So yeah, Tino for me.
And Darren is even drinking Gordon's gin. That's totally super life. And only Darren would criticise Mbappe, says Ian. Marks out of 10 for the season.
I'm gonna have to give it a 7.
Oh, that's more than I thought you'd give it.
It would have been a 6 if I finished 8th, but I give it a 7. So I'm happy with this. We could have done a little bit more better, but what we've been through this year and it's been tricky in the players and how we've done. So a 7 for me. I'm overall not too disappointed, you know.
Okay, good stuff. That's halfway through the show. We'll come to the bottom row next for their summing up of the season. We've got 600 watching across all 4 platforms today. If you're watching on Twitter, LinkedIn or Facebook, then please jump over to YouTube and search NUFC Matters and hit the subscribe button. We do 7 shows a week and we will be back after the ad break.
A big thanks to all our sponsors, Skips and Bins, telephone 0800 25 45 25 3, email inquiries at skipsandbins.com, website skipsandbins.com, easy contract free and pay-as-you-go waste collection. Thanks to Mr. Vicky's Sauces, handmade in Cumbria. Their website, mrvickies.co.uk, telephone 01768 210 102, or email info@mrvickies.co.uk. Thanks to United Group Travel. There are no strangers on our tours, just friends you haven't met yet. Their website, unitedgrouptravel.com, email beverly.ugtl@gmail.com, telephone 01670 632 460, or mobile 0791 666 4174. Thanks to Media Arts for the technical side of things. And you can also find us as a podcast on iTunes, Spotify, or other podcast providers. You can subscribe to the channel by hitting the subscribe button underneath this video. Hit the all notifications bell so you don't miss a show. Hit the thumb up to like the channel and click share to your social media. If you want to join the channel, then click join for as little as $1.99 a month. If you want to become a member, for a one-off £25 payment, email john@nufcmatters.com or go to membership at the website nufcmatters.com. If you've got a smartphone, hold your camera over the QR code and it'll take you straight there. We also help the food bank on this channel. Go to nufcfansfoodbank.co.uk to the matchday bucket and you can leave a virtual donation today.
And don't forget, the end of season 2 takes place 20th of July. It's in aid of Dementia Matters. The legendary Superman and Gibbo will be on stage with the legendary George. And we'll also have an acoustic set with Trev and Gaz from the Long Sounds, who were back together at the Into the Fields Festival in Blythe last night. And they were on good form. Absolutely fantastic. Full band last night. And they even played Worlds Collide at the end, NUFC Matters. Unrecognisable theme tune. But yeah, tickets for that are available from nufcmatters.com or newcastlelegends.com, and tickets are a tenner. And don't forget, Father's Day is coming up. If you want to buy your dad a ticket for this one, it's well worth going to an evening with Gibbo and Rob Lee, 2nd of August at the City Hall. And tickets are £15 and they're available from ticketmaster.co.uk. UK. Okay, tonight we are reviewing the season. In fact, all week we're doing this on each of the shows and finding out the lads' top 5, I guess. We want to know from Spenny now who his player of the season is.
My player of the season is Bruno. He's absolutely exceptional in that midfield. He's probably the best midfielder I've seen at Newcastle. He's gone over the top of Rob Lee now, for me, in my lifetime anyway. The way he went with going out them yellow cards all that time shows his commitment to the club and the campaign as well. So he's going nowhere. That lad is staying. For me, Bruno is player of the season. Young player of the season, I'm going to give it to Lewis Miley. Came in against PSG, played his skin out, never phased them. Absolutely fantastic. Our backs to the wall. We had injuries all over. For me, Lewis Miley came up, and he's a young player coming through, which this season is a good thing. What has happened with these young players is giving them experience in games, which will benefit them in the future. Best signing is not a hard one, really. We've only got 3, haven't we? And one's been out half the season, and the other one hasn't been in the games. So I will go with Tino, like everybody else has. It's an easy option to make. I think he'll be fantastic next season when Trippier goes. So I'm going with Tino. I think the next one's goal this season, isn't it?
Yeah, go for it, mate.
I want to agree is Shah's goal against PSG, especially the passes towards him, the commitment of going forward, and the balance he did when he shot the goal as when he was slipping. And it just, honestly, I was behind the goal when he scored, and I thought it was going out, but it just curved in right in the top corner. Fantastic goal, outside the box as well. Match of the season, well, that's an easy one for me, the Mackems. Beating the Mackems away and putting them in the place. I know how shit they are. Simple as that.
Good on,
Beating them.
It was my next one, Spenny.
Okay. My summary of that season is beating them twats. Simple as that.
Brilliant.
Not a 10.
I love it.
What was your mark out of 10 for the season?
Match of the 10, I'm going for a 6.
Okay.
Reasons the 6. Yes, because of the injuries, we've done well. We've got 7th place. But there's games I've watched and been at, and we should have won them games. And it was frustrating, especially to get the players. There's not any excuse having players out. The players were there to win that game. Like the Forest game, at home, that was absolutely disgraceful game. The way we played and let them take over like that. Fair enough, Chris Wood must have had a good drink the night before. Scoring that many goals against us.
Legend.
But for me, it could have been a lot more better, and we shouldn't have relied on other teams to get in Europe, which didn't work in the end. You should rely on your own team. Simple as that. So I'm giving a 6.
Okay, well done, Spenny. Good stuff, as always. I knew there'd be a few different answers in there, but I couldn't disagree with many of them either. Alan, what about you, mate? Go through your list. Player of the season first, mate.
Well, I was for my opinion, lads. I thought Isa, Shaw at the back, Bruno, and I love the guy Bruno, but for me it's Anthony Gordon, simply because for me it was so unexpected how good he is. I didn't expect him to be so good. So for the player of the season, it's Anthony Gordon. Young player of the season, I'm like Pablo, under 21 or under as the young player. So only 2 choices for me, Tino or Lewis Miley, and I think it's got to be Lewis Miley because he's only 17 and going in front of 52,000 fans. I don't think people tend to forget you're going in front of 52,000 fans and having to perform. I thought he was outstanding for being such a young lad. 17, 18, would you like to go in front of 52,000 out to perform? It must be daunting. So he played so well. And it, like Spenny said, it was good for the future. Basically, I would say the young player, the sign of the season is like everybody said, it has to be Tino. He's never let me down. So consistent, always so consistent. Really good and looking good for the future. Like Kevin said, we haven't missed him. you know, if Trippier's out, we haven't missed Trippier being out when he's in the team. Goal of the season, for me, there's 2 or 3, but for me, Kevin stole me thunder, PSG and Spenny, because that isn't on the cake. Yes, we'll remember the game forever for 3-1, but Shaw just made it sure that game will never be forgotten by any one of us here. Just the icing on the cake to make 4-1, 20 years out of the, you know, Champions League, and hopefully we'll get there again very shortly. I agree with Spenny, beating the Mackhams. Aston Villa, like Kevin said, great. And you know what, lads? I don't think I would ever see it. We'll win a team 8-0 away, and nobody's hardly mentioned it. Nobody's already mentioned the 8-0 win away from home.
That was in between the Mackhams, like, for me, Alan, especially
You
with
know,
8 scorers.
Yeah, and nobody's mentioned it in the chat or anything, and we've won 8-0 away. It's probably because of the opposition, Spenny, you know, but winning 8-0 away, nobody's hardly mentioned it. So what have I got to do? I think that's it, really. Steve, is it? Or Mark's out? I agree with
your goal of the season and your marks out of 10.
goal of the season, PSG. Steve.
PSG. Yeah, and your marks out of 10 for the season.
And the way I felt after the game, and I agree with everything Kevin and the lads have said, haven't to lie, but I'm going to go for a 6 now. It would have been a 7, but unfortunately, not making Europe, it's a failure. So it's a 6. 6 out of 10.
6 out of 10. Okay, we're averaging 6 and 7s here. Ian, over to you, mate, for your first one, which is player of the season.
For me, it was going to either be Bruno or Gordon, although got to give Isak a mention because he's got a load of goals, most goals for a long, long time. But Bruno, for the amount of games he played, was so close, but I'm giving it Gordon. I know Gordon's had a massive impact this season. And as much as I completely agree with, I think Spenny, who said that that Bruno's probably the best midfielder I've seen play for us, and he deserves all the plaudits. So I want to give it to Gordon, that one. Young player of the season, I went for young players I was torn between Tino or Lewis Miley, but I actually went for Lewis because just the pressure that he was under when he came in. If he hadn't stepped up to the plate, we were well and truly up shit creek without a paddle, basically, and he did. And so I think he deserves it for that run of games where he played every single game when we had nobody else to rely on. So he's getting that one. Goal of the season, Ballard on 35 minutes against the Mackhams. I thought that was a pretty good one. That's my goal of the season. But I'm in the Fabian share camp, I think. So yeah, between them two, take your pick, Steve. Put Ballard down if you want, just for to mix it up.
Stick Ballard in, it's a different one.
Yeah. Match of the season, there was loads. I had the 8-0 down as one of the choices. Man United away in the cup where we played. I don't know who we played. I was trying to remember who played in midfield. I couldn't remember whether we had a left back in midfield and like players all over the pitch out of position. That was a great game for me. Obviously the Mackhams, but I went for PSG 4-1.
Yeah,
you don't get that many times. I was also I Villa 5-1 was one of my options as well. That I was really close to going for because that was first game of the season. It was my birthday. I was mortal, and I can remember most of it. And it filled me full of hope as well when Tonali scored that goal. I thought, this is our season. I thought we're winning the league here. So just for that short amount of time before the next game, I was buzzing. But yeah, I would say I'd say PSG's got to take that. Best signings, obviously, Tino. And marks out of 10 for the season, I think a solid 7.
A solid 7. Okay. What about you then, Barry? Over to you for your player of the season.
Best player, I was torn. I know everybody's sort of going for Bruno, and I think yes, I can totally get why. I mean, he's an unbelievable player, but Isak for me, Steve, we've finally got a player who I can see scoring 20, 25, possibly 30 goals a season every season if he's fit. He looks unbelievable. He's improving every time I see him play. He's just, you can see why people are talking about 150, 200 million, and nobody's laughing at it because you think he's worth that sort of money. He's going to get better and better, and he's proven exactly what Ibrahimovic said about him before we signed him, where he turned around and said, this guy is class, and you just think, really, is he going to be that good? And he's looking it. I just pray that he can not bulk him up, but find a way of keeping him a little bit more free from injuries, because I think he'll get better and better given time. Young player, I'm another one who sort of went, what age you were talking about, and I totally agree with what Alan said. Lewis Smiley for me, 17-year-old kid who's living the dream. Basically, he's doing what everybody on this panel would love to do. He's turning up in a black and white shirt. He looks unbelievable. He's 17. He's only going to get better. I know certain negative people have said that he's not that good, and I'm not going to mention any names above us in the corner there. I think Lewis Smiley, I think he's just...
He needs a running coach, that's all I'm going to say, for next season.
He does, but he's 17, for God's sake. He's trying to learn to cope with this whole...
No, I'm not accepting that. He needs to run, like George said, he needs to learn to run properly.
Darren is still going through puberty.
Yeah, exactly.
Run through puberty.
If that's all he's got to improve, Darren, at 17, then God bless him. I think he'll just...
No, he's still got other things to improve, but the main thing is he's running. He's a bit leggy in midfield, isn't he, George?
He needs a yard at least.
Yes? Yeah. And for 7-year-old...
He's a good player. He's a good player. If he gets a yard, he'll be a fantastic player.
But is that
world class?
Maybe we should get Steve Bruce back. Give him a run round the turn him down a few times.
As long as I don't find him at the bottom of my garden like I used to do with bloody Gale sitting on my garden fence, hiding his guts up outside.
Goal of the season. I sat the last 2 days. I've watched the video that's on YouTube that's got every single goal, and it just. The one that stood out for me is one I didn't expect, and it was Jacob Murphy against Chelsea. He absolutely belted it.
Yeah.
And I just, you don't see many like that from Murphy. And I just thought that is incredible. He just curled it round.
Yeah, usually it's the post, doesn't he?
Match of the season. It's personal again. I was torn between the Mackhams, which I loved, and the Spurs game at home. I was sick to death of Tottenham whittering on how they were going to absolutely destroy us, and we obviously twonked them and just destroyed them. But I thought, that's the best game of the season for me. I remember just hearing the crowd and thinking, it doesn't get any better than that. Tottenham were thinking they were going to win the league and everything, and just best signing. I totally agree with nearly everybody else on the panel. Tino, just the kid's unreal. I think the fact now we're at the end of the season and I wouldn't be that bothered if Trippier left. You know, Tino would be first choice regardless. So I think he's done that much in this season. I think Lewis Hall isn't far behind him. And I think given the full season run out, I think Hall will look better and better all the time. What's that? Barry watched all the games drunk. Oh, how we? Not all of them. You know what I mean? If I'd said Dummett scored the best goal of the season, then maybe, marks for the season are I would be being optimistic saying 7, but I think everybody else has sort of gone. I think it's 7 due to injuries. I think next season with a few less injuries we can do really well. I think the players who will come back, somebody mentioned in the chat there about Willock, and it didn't even enter my head that Willock's been missing for most of the season. I was thinking about the likes of Tonali coming in. Potentially the 2 young defenders we're signing, and obviously some of the long-term injuries we've had, and then you add Joe Willock to that as well. I think next season's going to be incredible. I think it's where it's there for the taking, and that's before we start to sign anybody that we're not expecting. So, no, roll on next season, guys.
Yep, roll on next season. Few comments in the chat and a few people giving us theirs. Gary says, my favourite games this season, PSG, West Ham, Spurs at home. Favourite goal was probably Shaw's 4-1 against PSG. Tom Dixon says, my favourite game this season was when we beat West Ham 4-3. Isaac got 2 goals. Barnes got 2 goals as well. And Blue Rhythm Boy says, player, Gordon, young player, Miley, goal, Bruno versus Forest away, match, PSG at home. Signing Tino and a 7 out of 10 for me this season. Ian says, best player Gordon, best goal Isaac against Man City, best signing and young player Tino, and best game PSG and 7 out of 10 for the mark. And Paul Patterson says, out of all the Newcastle employees this season, who has the best garden? Mine's Dan Ashworth by a country mile, he says. A few people asking who the best forum member of the season is. David says it has to be Darren for his upbeat optimism. Jules says the best guest is definitely War George. Alan McKenzie says number 1 in the fans forum is Spenny. Philip says my favourite panelist will be Alan, and he thinks and says things just like me. Favourite game would have to be Sheffield United 8-0 with 8 different scorers, and I was there. PSG would be a close second as well. Jules says the highlight of the season off the pitch was a drunk Steve Wraith in control of the show. Bottoms up, she says. And David Cook agrees, best show of the season, Steve's infamous red wine show. And Dean Charlton, there's nothing wrong with his ears. He says the singer of the season has to be me. Thank you, Dean. You can rightly claim the top comment in the chat tonight. That's definitely the best comment tonight of the chat. Okay, we've got about 10 minutes, 15 minutes left, haven't we? So I just want to let's cover this, lads. And Barry, I'll come to you first. We'll go the reverse way around. Amanda Stabley put a comment out today on her Instagram. I've seen a lot of comments about an UFC Australian trip, which I'd like to address. Besides being a shareholder, I am first and foremost a fan. As a fan, I understand that this trip was controversial. However, personal opinions aside, revenue-generating trips are crucial to a club's commercial success. The decision to go was taken by management, and ultimately I have to support their decisions. Nobody wants a fresh team ready for the new season more than me, and we are doing everything we can to support our manager in achieving this. Mirdad and I had a very productive working trip to Monaco with a potential sponsor, and we are looking ahead to the new season. We are united. What did you make of that today, Barry?
It's hard, isn't it? Because there's been so much grief about it. I mean, I know I was listening to the show when George was talking a while ago about all the ludicrous friendlies that we've had in the past where they've disappeared mid-season, they've turned around and wandered off 6 games or something into the season and they've buggered off for somebody's testimonial, and you just think, God, is it one of them? If it wasn't for the fact they've literally finished the season and it looks like they got straight on the plane, then I would think, it's something that we need to do. We need to raise awareness of the team. The Australian Newcastle fans are totally getting behind them and celebrated the fact that they were there. Who gives a monkeys if we got beat 8-0 when it's an end of season friendly and they've put a lot of the young'uns out. It's one of those things that happens. I couldn't give a monkeys what the result was, as long as nobody got injured. And as long as the lads got something out of it in the club, which they obviously did because they've raised awareness of the team again, they're hopefully getting a little bit cash in. I think people are being a bit harsh about them. I think yes, I would have given them a week's break before they went. But other than that, I can totally see why they went. I mean, the America trip was a huge success. Obviously, Kev can probably say more about that than I can when they were over there. That was massive for the club. So why not? Obviously, they're going out to Japan, which will do the same in that sort of an area. And we haven't picked up any major injuries, which was my only concern. No, I think that Amanda's had to come out and defend them because of the amount of flack. But then it's the clickbait mob who are coming out and saying it, most of it. So, nah, let them get on with it, Steve. It's people who don't really care about the club who are twisting on.
Okay, Mozza says, notice Amanda edited the post and removed the mention of potential sponsorship trip. Yeah, I managed to nib it before she did that. Mark Byers as well, just before we move on from Barry, says, despite Steve's infamous red wine-induced show, Barry wins the Oliver Reed Drunken Panelist of the Season award for his being blottoed consistently. So there we go. And by the way, Mark, I hope you're okay. I seen you had a tornado on the way, so hopefully it's avoided you and Kev. Yeah, it's a bit of a nightmare that where you live, guys. But yeah, fingers crossed you've avoided that. Steve Middlemas makes a point here, and he says that statement maybe should have been before the trip to Australia. Might have taken a bit of the pressure off, Ian.
Yeah, maybe. I think it's all a bit of a load of
hot air.
arse wind. Yeah, arse wind from people who aren't even fans. A lot of them, I agree. When it came out that we were doing the post-season trip and it was going literally going from the last game straight out there, I did think, it's a bit mental. But then when somebody pointed out we were getting £3 million for sending the players over there for a couple of days, the winner of the FA Cup got £2 million. I think that was that was what was quoted.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's brilliant. £3 million, 15 million amortized over 5 years. Then you sort of think, well, do you know what it is? Good business that, and we lost 8-0, but we lost 8-0 because we weren't willing to risk senior players playing on I don't know what that was, a rugby pitch or whatever it was, lines
cricket.
all over it.
Yeah, it was a cricket pitch. The MCG, yeah.
The second one was a different stadium, though, the 8-0 one, wasn't it? It wasn't the MCG.
No, that was 50. That was a 55,000 seater in a different part of Australia.
It was a bizarre setup. The MCG looked great to me. I have no problem with that. The other one, anyway. So I think it's a lot of people, the press, pushing negative issues against us. I think, and then just the keyboard warriors on Twitter or whatever it's called now. So I didn't see a lot of it because I'm not on there. But yeah, I think it's a lot of hot air about nothing, basically. But yeah, I think she was right to come out and say something if she felt that was what she needed to do.
Yeah. Okay. Alan Shearer. Somebody mentioned Alan Shearer in the chat. What are the panel's thoughts on Shearer's negative comments? I mean, Alan wasn't just Shearer. He was asked the question. He had an opinion about it. Trippier came out as a current player. Alan's a pundit. That's his job. Kieran Trippier is employed by the club, and he came out and had a pop about it. But look, it made us some good money, Alan. I mean, were you against it?
No. To be honest with you, Steve, I look at it a different way. I look at the fact that I had to laugh at when Alan came out with it because his first moment of being a Newcastle United player was going on a plane to Thailand for a friendly after he signed for it. And that, yes, it was before the start of the season and it was a pre-season tour. But, the managers complain about Europe. But what's happening next year, lads, in the European Cup? They're playing 4 extra games. So the management aren't caring about players' safety. They're a commodity. The players are a commodity. And until the governing bodies say enough and cut down the amount of games that are played, but they're not. There's another Super Cup somewhere, I hear. So they don't care. This trip was meant to get revenue in. We all knew it. Everybody on this panel knows it was to get revenue in. And when I saw the Australian fans out there, my heart raised a beat because I thought them fans, some of them, will never see their heroes ever in their lifetime. It was their only chance to see their heroes in the flesh. And yes, it was 8-0. It wasn't that a point by Eddie Howe saying how far the academy is behind? Of 15, 20 years of neglect and even longer by the club. The academy players came on, we got walloped 8-0, and everybody's going on Twitter. What an embarrassment. That shows how far we're behind, lads. So, I thought it was great. The Japan trip's reportedly going to make with 10 million. Unfortunately, that's the way of the world. We've got to expand. Everybody, some lads out here, and the lads that you have, Steve, about not living in the area and around the world. I love Magnus, I love Martin, everybody around the country and around the world. We've got to embrace it, being a world brand, lads, and attract our players. So sorry for rabbiting on, Steve. I could rabbit on all day. I wasn't against the Australia trip. We need to do more, but obviously in a controlled way and look after our players. And until the governing bodies look after the players, well, I'm sorry, these trips are here to stay forevermore.
Yeah, Benny, probably the wrong expression I use. All right, Trippier didn't have a pop, but it was classic press steer and things. He said he was asked about it and said it wasn't ideal, but he said it wasn't happy, Benny, and I was surprised at that. He's the captain of the team. He's the person who has to lead the team out, over there, and I found it a bit strange that he would say that, and of course, lots of rumours about his future, so maybe that was why. Maybe he loosened, he loosened off a little bit, but normally he wouldn't be caught out by something like that. That's probably what I meant. Yes, Spenny, Amanda's statement. I mean, a couple of people in the chat saying it's good because previous owners, of course, just wouldn't have said anything.
I'm a bit frustrated, to be honest, with that statement. I think there's more pressing questions and answers the fans want, especially with the e-tickets and the queues outside the clubs. Why don't they give us answers about that? And saying about sponsorships, it's Stilson's job to get sponsorships. He should be the one giving out information, not the only owner of the club, not one of the owners of the club. But yes, Australia, money, it's money. What do you rather have? Sell one of our big players or go to Australia after the end of the season? I know what I'd rather do to make money. Get over there and make some money. I was a bit embarrassed for the second game we played. We played the young ones out, especially for some of the fans that paid money just to see, watch Newcastle and see a chance to see the players playing. I was a bit annoyed with that, but it's money in the bank. Let's get on with it.
Okay, George,
By the way, no one touched about Spurs playing over there, did they?
No, but not certainly not that I saw, but maybe they did on their line. George, I'm going to come to you because I can see you're getting a bit aerated, so I'm going to let you get it off your chest. What did you want to say about it?
Well, let's face it, we got more money than we would have got if we'd won the bloody FA Cup. It's a no-brainer, surely. And then there's the overall promotion of the club internationally and worldwide. Now, I've got relatives and a girl that used to be my secretary at the universities, her and her family's out there, and they absolutely adored the whole thing. It was fantastic for them. Yeah, they weren't desperately enamoured with the 8-0 loss, but what people didn't see was the big players, the Dan Burns and all the rest of them, were in the ground signing autographs and making themselves known and making their presence known. That's all great PR and promotional stuff. And as to Amanda making a statement, well, I'm glad she does. She's like she says what she's a fan as well as an owner and director, and that's great. How come on, we've had 14 years of a bloke that lied through his teeth allegedly, for every opportunity he got. He made these big statements, and 2 weeks later it was all tripe. At least we've got somebody who's wears her heart on her sleeve and she's a true United fan, and it needed addressing. Because the keyboard warriors and the anti-Newcastle brigade in the press in London and Manchester were having a go, and it was time that we answered. And I'm glad that she answered. It's time we had people who fought back for Newcastle United, and she does it very well. And I'll tell you something now. I still think she'll be the person that will solve this European money situation. I still think she'll be the one. So it was just my frustration at hearing people being extremely critical of somebody who's an admitted fan and wears a heart on his sleeve and fights back for Newcastle. We've too long we've sat back and done out. And as regards pre-season and post-season trips, after the 55 Cup final, Newcastle United went on a tour of South Africa, 19 games in 30 days. And when they came back, they were so knackered they nearly got relegated the next season. But by God, they made a lot of money. So it's not new, but how we, give the girls, give the management some credit for doing something very positive. And as I say, £1 million more than the cup winners got. For goodness sake, Howie, it's a no-brainer. No-brainer.
Kevin?
Said, George. Well said.
Your thoughts on Amanda's statement?
Again, about time. Somebody coming out and standing up for the club as a whole. Face of the club. Fan. Loves it. Done it. And you've met us, Stephen, through all the process, through the takeover and whatever that looked like. But in terms of the backside of it, Silverstone's, yes, he's the CEO, COO, whatever he is, the marketing guy, the sponsor guy. He doesn't necessarily have to get in front of a keyboard and start blurting all this stuff out to fans. That's not his role. His role is behind the scenes doing his job. If you get, for example, if me and Dad and Amanda went to Monaco, hey, look, there's plenty of money in Monaco, right? It's all tax-free, so let them go and have at it. Let them go and do their business dealings the way they want to go and do their business dealings, plus watch a race at the same time, you know, and be that face of Newcastle United. But for the, again, look, I read it a little bit, but been obviously busy with it, trying to figure out a damn tornado this morning. So that was all. That was a bit of fun. But anyway, the Australia trip, and I can talk from the America side of it, the fan experience, the fan engagement of watching, I'll talk from a personal level, watching my children who are now 14, 8 and 7 or 6 or whatever, to see their faces light up, to see a professional footballer, regardless of if the 18 youth player, they don't know. They just see a player who's just walked off the field with a training kit on, and they think they're the best thing since sliced bread. They don't know what level they're at. But to see my kids and other kids who were there, their whole world light up and become a Newcastle United fan, just off of that 20, 30-minute interaction with them after the practice. That's what it's all about. That's how I got into the game. That's how we all got into the game, from some form of interaction with the club, somehow, some way, some form. Yes, there's the financial thing, which is great, right? But ultimately, it's a fan base, and we're a fan group, and that's what drives to make a bigger club. Yes, we can have all the money in the world, but if we always said, if you haven't got fans, you haven't got a game of football. So that's what it was all about. It was all about the fans. It was all about trying to get a new breed of fan in terms of the younger generation. Because I had a wonderful experience here, even though I'm still a season ticket holder and I've been supporting since I was in the early 90s. But for me to even have a few minutes chat with Graham Jones and Tyndall and Sean Longstaff, just random chit chat, you know, it was like having like in a bar, in a pub, just, you know, shook my hand and had a chat. It was fabulous because they're just people at the end of the day. I seen them as that, but my kids were like, you know, their heart, like Alan said, heart skipped a beat a minute, and like, crap, we're actually seeing a pro. And I go back to the days of the Keegan era of Maiden Castle and having exactly the same experience of watching your heroes, the players that you adore, the players that you maybe want to aspire to be, because you never know, we might find the best Australian footballer out there from this trip. You just don't know what that looks like.
What line, Kevin? Yeah.
So again, there's no harm, no foul, and it's a positive. We're going to go to Japan. I've got one kid from South Korea playing for my team. He's one of the best technical players I've ever coached in my life, because they're that engrossed in the game, and they're that engrossed about learning and about the Premier League, whatever that looks like. So if we can broaden out our horizons a little bit and not be, you know, covered eyes and
blinkered.
Vision.
Yeah.
Blinkered. Thank you, George. That's why you're here. So you just help out with vocabulary. So if we're blinkered and just look narrow, and but as a fan base, we have to broaden the horizons. And that's how the world is now. You have to broaden your horizons. And you go to South America next year, North America, wherever it goes, that's where you got to go. And it's all driven from support base, look, multi-club models, and then you're going to get your next best thing potentially. I'm in a multi-club model now, so that we're looking at, unfortunately, the red and white, which is shit, but it is what it is. No, it's Brentford. I'm still dealing with that, but it's the multi-club model because they want to build and develop professional footballers in the United States. That's what they want to do, and that's what Newcastle United need to do, and get them into the club as a trial or something, just to give them that bit of hope to be a Newcastle United fan and or be a player for the club. And I think that's and Alan, I think Alan rightly pointed out, is the academy and the reserves is being neglected. And the point was of 15, 20 years. I was a part of that, and you got just kicked out, and you just were rubbish at the end of the day. And it's like, that's not right for a local lad trying to make it a pro, and you get kicked out because of certain circumstance. But then everything just goes flat, and we have nobody. For what? Over 20 years, 5 players, maybe, if that. So yeah, I think it's positive, and more the merrier for me, because then I don't have to fly home; they can fly to me because they've got more money, and I can just go and see them. So yeah, positive for me.
Yeah,
Pablo.
I tell you what, that was almost Churchillian by Kev. Then at points, I was
man. Same with George.
I'm flying the flag, lads.
So, no, on a serious note, you've nailed it, Kev. To be honest, without using the usual, football is a global game. Players come from all corners of this globe, or wherever, and we've got to be exploring things like that purely to go on about the FFP scenario and what will be or what won't be. We need to find these little gems all over the shop, like your Sons from Tottenham. We need to find them at source before they become £50 million Tonales or whatever it may be. Big teams have done it for years. We haven't. I mean, how many years now have you seen the bloody Man Uniteds and the Liverpools in America or wherever it may be? They caught onto it early on. We were way behind the times. So I don't see any negative in it. But fair play to the girl for coming out and giving the statement. Although for me, she doesn't need to give a statement, because anybody with half a brain would understand why they're doing it, what's going on. But yeah, fair play to her. And same as you, Kev, positive. What wrong can come from it? We weren't risking injuries, and we were actually giving opportunities. Who's to say we wouldn't find the next Lewis Miley in a game out in Australia or in wherever? It's a win-win.
Okay, finish off with you, Darren. Barry's had to go. Thanks to Barry for joining us today. He's obviously got a door to fix. Darren?
I disagree with the tournament, Steve. I don't think it was a good idea. We've had a hard season. And I, like you say, money, they could have chose to go begin the season, pre-season, but I'm one of them I wasn't really bothered with the tournament, the two game I had anyway.
Darren, get that pot noodle off your face. You have to be pot noodle with a beard.
No, actually, I think I know I've made money and all that, yes, but we played 2 games, they've made £3 million, but I just think it's wrong timing. I really do. I think you should have went the proper time pre-season, go and see the Australian people, and then I think you have to go across there. And
you go when your hosts invite you, man. Darren.
I know, George, but I'm sorry, but I can't. I've got my beliefs, I've got my opinions, and I'm not going to change my opinion. I think it's the wrong time to go. And they've had a hard season, all the players, and I don't know. I just don't think it's a good idea to go. Yes, they could have done better. They could have went in pre-season somehow.
And there he is. There he is with his name, with his big name, Darren Negativity.
Never changed, us.
Never changed, us. No, I was
just saying, like, everybody's seeing good comments and says I'm going to be the only one, yes, because of negativity.
Darren, are you allowed in Australia? Is that the problem?
But Darren, I don't want to play a football game on a Friday night, but the players have to play it.
I know, but it's end of the season, mate. I just think they need a rest, and they got internationals come up. Like Trippier said, he picked them knock. You know what I mean? I don't know. It's been mixed up. Negativity stands strong. Salas here.
Alan says, Jesus, end the show, Steve. Well, we're going to do just that. Ian says that Darren is still getting angry about Neighbours being cancelled.
I haven't got over that yet, man.
Great stuff, lads. Thanks for taking part. We are going to go through the summer. There'll be plenty to talk about. I'm sure we'll all be agreeing and disagreeing with potential transfer targets, and there's always something to talk about on Newcastle United. Tomorrow I'll be back 6 o'clock with the Toon Army Dallas. Cheryl Moon is going to come on and tell us all about their fans group. Wednesday we will be back for another look back at the season with
We don't want any
Geordie said,
negativity
Geordie's
from
there.
Steve, right?
No negativity. Thursday is going to be
None.
Super Mac and Gibbo, and Friday will be the Three Amigos. So another full week. Looking forward to joining you all tomorrow night with Toon Army Dallas. But it's thanks to Barry, Darren, Ian, Alan, Spenny, Pablo, Kevin, and George. But thanks to you and all the moderators. Take care,
Good
guys.
to see everybody.
Good
Good to see you.
Cheers, lads.
Take care.